Welcome to MSExamLab. This is PL-300 Power BI Data Analyst. Episode 3, Databases, Gateways, and Credentials. 18 Real Exam-Style Questions. Every answer key has been checked against Microsoft Learn before it reached this video. Where the question bank is wrong or its wording has been retired, I say so on screen. 18 questions. We follow the path a real connection takes, pick a connectivity mode, parameterize it, fix the credentials, then get it refreshing in the service. Question 1 of 18, Connectivity for fresh data. You plan to create a Power BI semantic model named Model 1 that will contain data from an Azure SQL database named DB1. Model 1 must show updated data within 2 minutes of the data being updated in DB1. You need to select a connectivity mode. Which mode should you use? Your options: A. Direct query, B. Live connection, C. Import. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answer is A. Direct query. 2 minutes is a latency requirement no refresh schedule can meet. Direct query leaves the data in Azure SQL and queries it as visuals render, so the report is always current. Now, why the others fail. Import caches a copy. Scheduled refresh runs at best every 30 minutes on Premium, so it cannot guarantee 2 minutes. Live connection applies to analysis services or an existing Power BI semantic model, not to a raw Azure SQL database. Verified against Learn Microsoft.com use direct query in Power BI Desktop. Question 2 of 18, Detecting fraud in near real time. You have an Azure SQL database that contains sales transactions. The database is updated frequently. You need to generate reports from the data to detect fraudulent transactions. The data must be visible within 5 minutes of an update. How should you configure the connection? Your options: A. Add a SQL statement, B. Set the command timeout in minutes setting, C. Set data connectivity mode to import, D. Set data connectivity mode to direct query. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answer is D. Set data connectivity mode to direct query. Same rule as the previous question and worth drilling. A stated freshness window measured in minutes always points at direct query. Fraud detection cannot wait for the next refresh cycle. Now, why the others fail. Import means the report shows whatever the last refresh loaded, so fraud would surface late. A SQL statement shapes what you retrieve. It does nothing about latency. Command timeout controls how long a single query may run before failing. One more thing, read the number. Within 5 minutes is direct query. Daily by 7 a.m. is import plus a schedule. Verified against Learn Microsoft.com use direct query in Power BI Desktop. Question 3 of 18, Dataflow with the compute engine on. A BI developer creates a Dataflow in Power BI that uses direct query to access tables from an on-premises SQL server. Enhanced Dataflow's compute engine is turned on. You need to use the Dataflow in a report, and the report data must be as current as possible while minimizing query load on the source. What should you do? Your options: A. Create a Dataflow's connection that has direct query mode selected. B. Create a Dataflow's connection that has direct query mode selected and configure a gateway. C. Create a Dataflow's connection that has import mode selected and schedule a daily refresh. D. Create a Dataflow's connection that has import mode selected and create a Power Automate flow. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answer is C. Create a Dataflow's connection that has import mode selected and schedule a daily refresh. Import mode with a schedule loads the Dataflow output into the model. so report queries hit Power BI's own engine rather than traveling back to the on-premises server every interaction. Now, why the others fail. Direct query against the Dataflow pushes every visual interaction back through to the source, which is the load you were asked to reduce. Adding a gateway does not change that. The gateway is plumbing, not a performance strategy. A Power Automate flow is for triggering refreshes on schedules the refresh dialog cannot express. Verified against Learn, Microsoft, COM, Dataflows, and the Enhanced Compute Engine. Question 4 of 18, Trimming a SQL View. You are creating a sales report for the Northwest Region Sales Territory. Data comes from a view in a SQL Server database. You need to reduce data refresh times and report query times. Which two actions should you perform? Each correct answer presents part of the solution. This one wants two answers, not one. Your options. A. Set the data type for sales order number to decimal number. B. Remove the customer key and product key columns. C. Remove the tax amped and freight columns. D. Filter the data to only the Northwest Region Sales Territory. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answers are C. Remove the tax amped and freight columns. D. Filter the data to only the Northwest Region Sales Territory. Cut both dimensions of the data. Filtering to Northwest removes rows the report never shows, and dropping tax amped and freight removes columns it never uses. Both reduce what has to be loaded and scanned. Now, why the others fail. Customer key and product key are the relationship keys. Remove them and the model stops working. Retyping sales order number as decimal number would make it larger, not smaller, and it is not numeric data anyway. Verified against Learn, Microsoft, COM, data reduction techniques for import modeling. Question 5 of 18, a load that will not finish. You use Power BI Desktop to load data from a SQL Server database. While waiting for the data to load, you receive a timeout error. You need to resolve the error. What are two ways to achieve the goal? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. This one wants two answers, not one. Your options. A. Reduce the number of rows and columns returned by each query. B. Split long-running queries into subsets of columns and use Power Query to merge them. C. Use Power Query to combine long-running queries into one query. D. Disable query folding on long-running queries. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answers are A. Reduce the number of rows and columns returned by each query. B. Split long-running queries into subsets of columns and use Power Query to merge them. Both answers make each individual query smaller so it completes inside the timeout. Fetch fewer rows and columns or break one wide query into narrower ones and stitch them back together with a merge. Now, why the others fail. Combining queries into one makes the single query bigger, which is the opposite of what a timeout needs. Disabling query folding forces Power BI to pull everything and process locally, making the problem substantially worse. Verified against Learn, Microsoft, COM, query folding guidance, troubleshoot refresh timeouts. Question 6 of 18, sampling a large table. Repeated scenario series. You are modeling data in Power BI. Part of the model is a large SQL Server table named Order with more than 100 million records. During development, you need to import a sample of the data from the order table. For each proposed solution, does it meet the goal? For each statement, yes if it is true, otherwise no. Statement 1, from Power Query Editor, import the table and then add a filter step to the query. Statement 2, add a DAX expression that uses the filter function to the model. Statement 3, add a where clause to the SQL statement used to import the table. Statement 4, add a report level filter that filters based on the order date. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answers are Statement 1, no, Statement 2, no, Statement 3, yes, Statement 4, no. Only the where clause samples at the source, so just the wanted rows ever travel into Power BI. Everything else filters after all 100 million records have already been imported. Now why the others fail. A Power Query filter step added after the import runs against data that has already loaded, so the full table still comes across. A DAX filter expression and a report-level filter both act on the model after loading. They change what you see, not what you import. One more thing, filter at the source. Any filter applied later still pays the full import cost. Verified against Learn Microsoft.com import data using a native database query folding. Question 7 of 18, 1 file, 3 environments. You have 3 Azure SQL databases. DB powered by Dev Development Dev Database Windows Net, DB powered by UAT Test UAT Database Windows Net, and DB powered by Prod Production Prod Database Windows Net. You plan to build a single PBIX file where data comes from the database matching each stage of the development lifecycle. Deployment pipelines must not be used and the solution must minimize administrative effort. What should you do? 2 selections here. Create. Choices are 1 parameter, 2 parameters, 3 parameters. Parameter type. Choices are text. True, false. Decimal number. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answers are 1 parameter and text. The only thing that changes between the 3 environments is the server name, so 1 text parameter holding that server URL is enough. Change its value and every query repoints at once. Now why the others fail. 2 or 3 parameters would mean maintaining a value per environment when only 1 value is ever active. True-false could only express a 2-way switch, and there are 3 stages. Decimal number cannot hold a server URL. Verified against Learn Microsoft.com using parameters in Power Query. Question 8 of 18, migrating to a new database. You have a PBIX file that imports several tables from an Azure SQL database. The data will be migrated to another Azure SQL database. You need to change the connections in the PBIX file. The solution must minimize administrative effort. What should you do? Your options. A. From Power Query Editor, create new queries. B. From Power Query Editor, modify the source of each query. C. Create a PBIT file, open the file and change the data sources when prompted. D. Modify the data source settings. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answer is D. Modify the data source settings. Data source settings changes the server once for every query that uses it. Because all the tables share one data source, that is a single edit rather than 1 per table. Now why the others fail. Editing the source of each query does work but means repeating yourself for every table. Creating new queries throws away all the applied steps. The PBIT route rebuilds from a template when you only needed to repoint a server. Verified against Learn Microsoft.com data source settings in Power Query. Question 9 of 18, parameterizing a second source. You have a Power BI semantic model that imports data from a SQL Server database and an Oracle database. The model is deployed to the Power BI service. Parameters are already used for the SQL Server data source. You plan to make the Oracle server name changeable after deployment with the least ongoing effort. What should you do? Your options. A. From Power BI Desktop, modify the Oracle data source to use a parameter, and then republish the model. B. From the Power BI service, modify the parameters of the SQL Server data source. C. From the Power BI service, create a new semantic model that uses the existing model as a source. D. From the Power BI service, set a parameter value for the model. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answer is A from Power BI Desktop. Modify the Oracle data source to use a parameter and then republish the model. A parameter has to exist in the model before the service can expose it. The Oracle source does not use one yet, so you add it in Desktop and republish. From then on, the value is editable in the service. Now, why the others fail? The SQL Server parameters are already fine. Changing them does nothing for Oracle. You cannot set a parameter value that was never defined. Chaining a new model on top of the existing one solves nothing and adds an artifact to maintain. Verified against Learn Microsoft.com using parameters in Power Query semantic model settings. Question 10 of 18, an expired password. You are creating a new semantic model in Power BI Desktop. You connect to a recently used data source and receive an error message indicating that the password is expired. You need to update the credentials for the data source. What should you do? Your options. A. From Data Source Settings, select the data source and then select Edit Permissions. B. From Options, select Data Load and then select Clear Cache. C. From Power Query Editor, select Refresh Preview. D. From the Modeling tab, select Manage Roles and then add a role. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answer is A. From Data Source Settings, select the data source and then select Edit Permissions. Power BI Desktop caches credentials per data source. Data source settings, then edit permissions is where those stored credentials are replaced. Now, why the others fail? Clearing the data cache discards downloaded data, not saved credentials. Refresh Preview retries with the same expired credentials and fails again. Manage Roles defines row-level security, which has nothing to do with signing in. Verified against Learn Microsoft.com data source settings authentication with a data source. Question 11 of 18, privacy level per source. You have a Power BI semantic model containing two data sources. Employee review data contains sensitive information and must not be folded into any other data sources. Sales opportunities contains less sensitive information and must only be available internally. What should you configure for each data source? Two selections here. Employee review data. Choices are none. Organizational. Private. Public. Sales opportunities. Choices are none. Organizational. Private. Public. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answers are private and organizational. The wording maps straight onto the levels. Must not be combined with anything is private, which is total isolation. Available internally is organizational, which can combine with other organizational sources but is walled off from public ones. Now, why the others fail? Public would let either source fold into anything at all, including external sources. None leaves the level unset, so no isolation is enforced. Making the review data organizational would allow it to combine with the sales data, which the requirement forbids. Verified against Learn Microsoft.com Power BI Desktop privacy levels. Question 12 of 18, reading M for a SharePoint list. You use Power Query Editor to pull data from a SharePoint online list and plan to use Advanced Editor to build the M query. The query must load the data, expand a column named Location, and hide a column named Country or Region. How should you complete the query? Two selections here. Expanded location equals. Choices are Table expand list column. Table expand record column. Table duplicate column. Removed equals. Choices are Table remove columns. Table reorder columns. Table remove rows. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answers are table, expand record column, and table, remove columns. A SharePoint list returns location as a record, so table, expand record column is what flattens its fields into columns. Hiding a column from the loaded output means removing it, which is table, remove columns. Now why the others fail. Table, expand list column is for a list value, which produces extra rows rather than extra columns. Table, duplicate column copies a column instead of expanding it. Table, remove rows drops records, not columns, and reorder columns only changes their order. Verified against learn Microsoft, table, expand record column, table, remove columns. Question 13 of 18, publishing an SSAS report. You create a report in Power BI Desktop. The report uses data from a SQL Server Analysis Services tabular model located on your company's internal network. You plan to publish the report to the Power BI service. What should you configure? Your options. A scheduled refresh of the semantic model. B, an OData feed. C, an on-premises data gateway. D, a subscription. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answer is C, an on-premises data gateway. The service cannot reach anything inside your network on its own. An on-premises data gateway is the bridge, and for a live connection to SSAS, it is required before the report will work at all. Now why the others fail. A schedule is pointless if the service has no route to the server in the first place. An OData feed is a different connector entirely and does not apply to an SSAS tabular model. A subscription just emails a snapshot to people. Verified against learn Microsoft, on-premises data gateway connect to SSAS Live. Question 14 of 18, refreshing a file server source. You have an Excel file on a file server. You create a Power BI report, import a table from the Excel file, and publish the report. You need to ensure that the data refreshes every 4 hours. What should you do first? Your options. A, upload the Excel file to a Power BI workspace. B, create a subscription to the report. C, deploy an on-premises data gateway. D, edit the data source credentials. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answer is C, deploy an on-premises data gateway. A file server is on-premises, so scheduled refresh needs a gateway before anything else can be configured. The question asks what comes first, and this is the prerequisite. Now why the others fail. You can only edit credentials once the gateway exists and the data source is registered on it. Uploading the file changes the architecture rather than refreshing the report you built. A subscription delivers the report by email, it does not refresh data. One more thing, cloud source no gateway, on-premises source including a plain file share gateway first. Verified against learn Microsoft, on-premises data gateway configure scheduled refresh. Question 15 of 18, wiring up a gateway refresh. You publish a dataset that contains data from an on-premises SQL Server database. The dataset must be refreshed daily. You need to ensure that the Power BI service can connect to the database and refresh the dataset. Which 4 actions should you perform in sequence? 5 actions, you need 4 of them in the right order. Add the dataset owner to the data source. Configure an on-premises data gateway. Configure a virtual network data gateway. Add a data source. Configure a scheduled refresh. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The correct sequence is 1. Configure an on-premises data gateway. 2. Add a data source. 3. Add the dataset owner to the data source. 4. Configure a scheduled refresh. Build the chain from the bottom up. Install and register the gateway, add the SQL Server data source to it, grant the dataset owner permission to use that data source, and only then can you configure the refresh schedule. Now, why the others fail? A virtual network data gateway is for Azure VNet protected cloud sources, not for a server on your own network. Scheduling first fails because there is nothing for the schedule to connect through yet. Verified against Learn Microsoft, manage an on-premises data gateway at a data source. Question 16 of 18, gateway not selectable. You publish a dataset to the Power BI service. The dataset contains a connection to an on-premises SQL Server database. You attempt to configure a scheduled refresh but cannot select the appropriate on-premises data gateway, even though the gateway is online and you are an admin of it. What is the most likely reason? Your options. A. The type of data source is not supported by the on-premises data gateway. B. The server name in the PBIX file does not match the data source name configured on the gateway. C. The credentials for the data source are invalid. D. The data source is configured to use single sign-on SSO. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answer is B. The server name in the PBIX file does not match the data source name configured on the gateway. The service matches a dataset to a gateway by comparing the connection string exactly. If the PBIX says one server name and the gateway data source says another, the gateway simply is not offered as an option. Now, why the others fail? SQL Server is very much supported by the gateway. Invalid credentials would let you select the gateway and then fail on test connection, which is a different symptom. SSO changes how identity is passed, not whether the gateway appears. One more thing, not selectable means not matched. Selectable but failing means credentials. Verified against Learn Microsoft, manage gateway data sources, troubleshoot gateways. Question 17 of 18, a daily morning refresh. You have a Power BI semantic model named Model 1 that contains data from an on-premises SQL Server database. You need to ensure that Model 1 is refreshed every morning at 06:00 a.m. The solution must minimize administrative effort. What should you do? Your options. A. From Power BI Desktop, refresh Model 1 and republish the model daily. B. From the Power BI service, configure a scheduled refresh of Model 1. C. Use a SQL Server agent job to call the Power BI REST API and trigger a refresh. D. From Power BI Desktop, enable a background data refresh of Model 1. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answer is B. From the Power BI service, configure a scheduled refresh of Model 1. A fixed daily time is exactly what scheduled refresh is for. Set 06:00 in the model settings and it runs itself with no code and nothing to maintain. Now, why the others fail? Refreshing and republishing by hand every day is the definition of administrative effort. A SQL agent job calling the REST API works but is far more machinery than a daily time needs. Background data refresh in desktop is a local preview setting. It does not drive the service. Verified against Learn Microsoft, configure scheduled refresh. Question 18 of 18, a monthly refresh. You have a Power BI semantic model named Model 1 that contains sales data. You need to ensure that Model 1 is refreshed on the first day of each month to include last month's sales data. What should you configure? Your options. A scheduled refresh. B. An incremental refresh. C. A Microsoft Power Automate flow. D. An on-premises data gateway. Pause here if you need longer, 10 seconds. The answer is C, a Microsoft Power Automate flow. Scheduled refresh only offers daily and weekly patterns, so it cannot express the first day of each month. A Power Automate flow can run on that schedule and call the refresh action. Now, why the others fail? Scheduled refresh looks like the obvious answer and is the trap. There is no monthly option in the dialog. Incremental refresh controls which partitions get reloaded, not when a refresh happens. A gateway is about reaching a source, not about timing. One more thing, refresh dialog offers daily and weekly only. Anything monthly needs Power Automate or the rest a PI. Verified against Learn Microsoft, configure scheduled refresh, Power Automate Power BI connector. 6 things to carry into the exam. 1. Freshness picks the mode. A minutes level requirement means direct query, everything else prefers import. 2. One text parameter, many stages. Parameterize the server and you swap dev, test, and prod without new queries. 3. Credentials live in data source settings. Expired password, edit permissions there, not by clearing a cache. 4. Gateway equals on-premises only. Cloud sources need none. A file server or internal SSAS does. 5. Gateway names must match exactly. The server name in the PBIX has to equal the data source name on the gateway. 6. Scheduled refresh is daily or weekly. Monthly needs Power Automate or the rest a PI, not the refresh dialog. That is episode 3. Episode 4 is Power Query Transformations. Unpivot, split, merge, error handling, and the transforms that cut load times. This series runs 20 episodes and covers the whole exam. Subscribe so you get each one as it lands. And tell me in the comments which question caught you out. I read them all. See you in episode 4.